What if everything you've learned about the resurrection hides a terrifying detail? Few people dare to ask this question because it touches on something too profound: God's timing. But today you're going to hear something that will send shivers down the spine of even the most hardworking. And it's not made up. It's a real, ancient, serious, and disturbing reflection. Imagine for a moment, what if Jesus had resurrected before the appointed time, before the third day, before the silence, before the painful wait? It seems like mere curiosity, but this question has haunted theologians, priests, and saints for centuries, because, according to Christian tradition, one day less would have changed everything. Padre Pio said that nothing in the Passion happened by chance. No pain, no tears, no hours spent in the tomb. Everything followed a precise plan, invisible to human eyes. And tampering with that time, even in thought, reveals something frightening. There are spiritual consequences when God's timing is broken. What's most frightening is that if Jesus had resurrected earlier, many things that seem certain today might never have happened. Faith might have been born fragile. The sacrifice might have been questioned. The victory might not have been complete. And that's not an exaggeration. It's spiritual logic. The silence of those days was not empty. It was necessary. It was heavy. It was intentional. Padre Pio warned that God acts at the exact moment. And when human beings try to rush what is divine, something is lost, sometimes irreversibly. And here's the hook that holds it all the way to the end. If he had been resurrected earlier, it would have caused all of this. What exactly could have gone wrong? What would have been broken in the spiritual world? And why does this detail still matter today? Stay until the end. The answer is real. And it's more frightening than it seems. What many people don't realize is that the third day was not chosen at random. In the Bible, numbers have significance, and the number 3 always appears at the most decisive moments. It is the time of confirmation, of turning points, of God's direct action. Padre Pio explained this simply. Before the third day, something is still incomplete. Think of it like a seed planted in the ground. On the first day, nothing appears. On the second, it seems like nothing has happened. But on the third, something begins to change inside. If you pull up the seed before its time, it dies. Padre Pio used this image to explain that the resurrection needed to wait for the right time to be true and definitive. In biblical tradition, the third day marks the moment when God confirms his will. This was the case with Jonah in the belly of the fish. It was the case in several passages of the Old Testament, and it was the case with Jesus. To resurrect earlier would break this sacred pattern. It wouldn't just be sooner, it would be outside the plan. And here's a chilling detail. Padre Pio used to say that God never acts because of human haste. Suffering, silence, and waiting are part of the process. Saturday, that day when everything seemed lost, was not an emptiness. It was a necessary time for the work to be completed. If Jesus had risen before the third day, something would have remained unfinished in the spiritual world. The victory would not have been complete. The confirmation would not have been sealed. It would have been like ending a story before the last chapter. It would have lacked meaning, it would have lacked power, it would have lacked truth. That's why this number carries so much weight. It's not mathematics, it's mystery, it's divine timing. Padre Pio warned that when God waits, it's because something unseen is still being completed. And now consider this. If even the Son of God respected this time, what happens when humans try to skip spiritual steps? During those 3 days that Jesus remained dead, something invisible and decisive was happening. According to Christian tradition, Jesus did not remain still in the tomb. He descended to the place where souls awaited redemption, a place of waiting, of silence, and of interrupted hope. Padre Pio explained it simply. Victory needed to reach even those who had forgotten. Imagine a large door that has been closed for centuries. Behind it, people who lived before Jesus, who believed in God, but had never seen the promise fulfilled. If Jesus had risen before his time, that door would have remained closed. Those souls would have remained trapped. Salvation would have remained incomplete. And this is not a detail, it is the foundation of faith. Padre Pio said that God doesn't save halfway. He goes all the way, to the deepest point, to where the human eye cannot reach. Jesus' descent into the abode of the dead shows this. It was not just a symbolic gesture, it was a real, necessary, and silent mission. If the resurrection had happened sooner, Jesus would not have completed this stage. The victory would be partial. The sacrifice would not reach everyone. It would be like turning off the light before illuminating the last dark room in a house. Something would be left behind. This is one of the points that causes the most spiritual fear, because it shows that God's timing isn't just for those of us who are alive, but also for realities we don't see. The third day ensured that no one was left behind. Father Pio warned, when God allows waiting, it is because a liberation is happening in silence. And rushing this time can mean losing something eternal. And here's the chilling question. If even the dead needed that time, why do we think our spiritual life can be resolved in a hurry? There is a very serious and even frightening reason why Jesus didn't resurrect too quickly. The world needed to be absolutely certain that he really died. It seems simple, but it changes everything. Padre Pio said that if there had been any doubt, the Christian faith might have been born weak, full of questions and mistrust. Imagine if Jesus had resurrected just a few hours after being placed in the tomb. Many people would say, he only fainted. It was a trick. He didn't really die. This suspicion would spread like a shadow, and a faith built on doubt cannot stand. The third day eliminates any human explanation. Padre Pio explained this clearly. God allowed the necessary time for death to become undeniable. The body was seen, the tomb was closed, the silence was total. There was no more human hope. And it is precisely there that God acts. Spiritual fear lies in this detail. If death were not complete, the resurrection would not be a victory, it would be a questioning. Jesus' sacrifice would lose its power, the cross would seem staged, and evil would have grounds to attack faith for centuries. The third day acts as a seal. It closes the door to any lies. It prevents the human mind from distorting the miracle. Padre Pio said that God leaves no loopholes when he does something definitive. The resurrection needed to be indisputable. And here's the chilling part. God waited until everything seemed lost, until there was no way out, until death was complete in the eyes of the world. Only then did life come. This teaches something profound and frightening at the same time. When God delays, it's not abandonment, it's preparation. And when he acts, he leaves no room for doubt. The scariest day in all of history wasn't the cross, it was silence. Saturday, a whole day without answers, without miracles, without signs from heaven, Jesus dead, the tomb closed and the sky completely quiet. Padre Pio said that this silence was not punishment, it was a lesson. Imagine the scene as a child would understand it. It's like when you call someone you love very much and no one answers. Your heart aches, doubt grows, your faith is tested. That's exactly what happened to the disciples. Everything they believed in seemed to have ended, and that was precisely the feeling that needed to exist. Padre Pio explained that God uses silence to break human pride. While there is a quick response, a person has little faith. But when silence comes, faith is forced to reveal itself. Is it true, or does it depend on signs? The Sabbath separated true faith from fragile faith. If Jesus had risen earlier, this moment would never have existed. There would be no waiting, there would be no inner pain, there would be no purification. Faith would be born too comfortably, and that is spiritually dangerous. Padre Pio warned that a faith that never faces silence cannot withstand life's trials. Spiritual fear is present here. God allowed everything to seem lost. He allowed hidden tears. He allowed confusion, because only in this way does the human heart learn to trust without seeing. The silence of the Sabbath taught something that words could never teach, and this teaching did not remain in the past. Padre Pio said that every Christian goes through their spiritual Sabbaths, moments when God seems distant but is working in silence. Now think carefully, if even the Son of God himself went through this silence, why do we think that true faith doesn't hurt? There is a spiritual detail that is chilling when understood. The enemy believed he had won. When Jesus died and silence fell over everything, it seemed that evil had triumphed. The cross was empty, the tomb closed, hope extinguished. Padre Pio said that this false victory was part of God's plan. Imagine a simple trap, easy even for a child to understand. A hunter makes something appear weak, still, without reaction. The enemy approaches, thinking it has won. But it is precisely at that moment that the trap closes. That is what happened in the spiritual world. If Jesus had risen sooner, evil would never have fallen for this illusion. There would have been no surprise. There would have been no final blow. Padre Pio explained that the resurrection was not a swift reaction, but a precise attack. He waited for the right time to happen when no one else expected it. The silence of Saturday caused the enemy to lower his guard, to believe that everything was over, to think that the sacrifice had failed, and it was precisely at this point that Christ's victory became total, not only visible, but spiritual, profound, and definitive. The fear lies here. If Jesus had risen sooner, this complete defeat of evil would not have happened. The enemy would still have arguments. He would still have doubts to spread. He would still have room for spiritual confusion. Father Pio warned that God never acts in times of desperation. He waits. He calculates. He acts at the perfect moment. The third day was the exact instant when evil realized, too late, that it had been deceived. And this divine strategy teaches something terrifying. Sometimes, when all seems lost, it's because evil is convinced that it has won. And it is precisely there that God prepares the greatest turnaround. There is something that Padre Pio repeated firmly, and it is startling when truly understood. God's justice needed to be complete, not rushed, not shortened, complete. Jesus could not skip the pain to quickly reach glory. If that happened, something would be wrong at the heart of faith. Think of it simply, even a child understands. Imagine someone who promises to cross a dangerous river to save others. If that person enters the water, feels the cold, the tiredness, the fear, but returns before reaching the other side, the promise has not been fulfilled. Padre Pio said that Jesus had to go through everything to the end. If he had risen before his time, many might think that God fled from pain, that suffering was interrupted, that the cross was only an appearance. That would be spiritually terrible, because divine justice doesn't work that way. It doesn't deceive, it doesn't shorten the path. It transforms pain into redemption. The third day revealed something very powerful. God did not save the world by avoiding suffering, but going through suffering. Father Pio taught that this difference changes everything. Salvation is only true when suffering is faced to the end, without shortcuts. The spiritual fear lies here. If Jesus had risen sooner, someone could say that the sacrifice was not complete, that a debt remained, that justice was not fully satisfied, and this would open the door to doubts, accusations, and weakness in faith. Therefore, time was respected. Every hour, every silence, every tear, nothing was wasted. Padre Pio warned that God never saves superficially. He goes wherever he needs to go. And this truth leaves behind a disturbing question. If God didn't flee from pain to save us, why do we try to escape any suffering in order to grow spiritually? The third day marked a point that could no longer be undone. Before it, there were still questions, suspicions, and human possibilities. After it, there were none. Padre Pio said that the resurrection needed to happen at a point of no return, when no one could say it was coincidence, human effort, or a misperception. Think of it simply. It's like waiting for bread to bake completely. If you take it out too early, it may look ready on the outside, but it's still raw inside. If Jesus had resurrected earlier, something similar would have happened. Outwardly, it would be a miracle, but inwardly there would still be doubt. The third day ensured that everything was complete. Padre Pio explained that God never does things halfway. The resurrection could not be fragile, questionable, or debatable. It needed to be absolute, irreversible, an event so powerful that it would transcend centuries without losing its force. And that only happens when the right time is respected. Before the third day, there would always be someone saying, maybe he didn't really die, maybe it was too fast, maybe there's another explanation. After the third day, those voices fade. Death was certain. Silence had already won. Human hope had ended. And it is at this point that God acts. Spiritual fear lies in this detail. God waited until there was no other way out for humanity. When everything was closed, sealed, and beyond return, life came back. Padre Pio said this was intentional because faith needed to be born without crutches, without easy explanations. The resurrection on the third day left no gaps. It left no doors ajar. It was a definitive cut between death and life, between before and after, between doubt and certainty. And this teaches anyone something profound. When God delays, He is preparing something that cannot be undone, something that no one will be able to erase. Now comes a truth that is frightening when understood. If Jesus had risen before His time, the faith that exists today might be fragile, confused, and full of doubt. Father Pio warned that the Christian faith was not born out of comfort, but from a spiritual shock impossible to explain with human logic. Think about it simply. If something incredible happens too quickly, people always look for an easy explanation. It was luck. It was an exaggeration. It wasn't quite like that. If the resurrection had happened before the third day, many people would say it was a mistake, the disciples' emotion, or even a lie. Faith would grow weak, supported by opinions, not certainty. Padre Pio said that God built faith upon a fact that humankind cannot dismantle. 3 days dead, tomb sealed, guards, silence, utter despair, and then life. This leaves no room for human explanations. You either believe it or you reject it. There is no middle ground. If Jesus had risen sooner, the faith might have spread as a beautiful story, but not as a truth that endures through the centuries. Perhaps it would have divided more than united. Perhaps it would have weakened over time. Perhaps it wouldn't have even reached us. Spiritual fear is here. God has considered the future of faith. He thought of the generations to come. He thought of those who would never see Jesus with their own eyes. The third day was necessary for faith to survive time, persecution, and doubt. Padre Pio taught that God builds nothing on fragile ground. The resurrection needed to be strong enough to sustain millions of people for thousands of years. And that would only be possible if it happened at the exact right moment. Now think carefully. If even faith needed the perfect time to be born, what happens when we try to experience spirituality in a rushed way? All of this leads us to a chilling conclusion. This mystery doesn't just speak of the past, it speaks of the present. Father Pio said that the greatest spiritual danger is not suffering but trying to rush God's timing, because when someone tries to force what is not yet mature, something breaks inside. Think simply as a child would understand. Imagine opening a present before the right time. You tear the paper, see something only halfway, and spoil the surprise. In the spiritual world, it's worse. Padre Pio warned that skipping steps creates invisible wounds, gaps that later bring confusion, anxiety, and even loss of faith. The third day teaches a hard lesson. Even Jesus waited. Even the Son of God respected the silence, the pain, and the precise timing. not to suffer more, but because it was necessary. And if that was true for him, how much more so for us? Fear is present here. When someone insists on quick answers, immediate solutions, and urgent signs, they may be entering dangerous territory. Padre Pio said that many spiritual falls begin this way, not for lack of faith, but for lack of patience. This mystery sends a clear warning. God's timing cannot be shortened without consequences. What matures in silence sustains the soul. What is born in haste does not last. And now I ask you sincerely, in what area of your life are you trying to skip the third day? Leave your answer in the comments. It might help other people. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. These warnings don't appear by chance.
Hear the true prophetic message.